Good morning, everybody. This is Judith A. Cope. You're listening to Mad Love. Let's get into it. So, what's really strange to me, I don't think people have paid that much attention to it. So, like I've told you, I have a sibling who has the worst health ever. I mean, he has so many things chronically wrong with him, but you can't put a fine point on it. Like you can't just say he has this, you know you just don't know. It's like all these infections and stuff. So that's the other piece of caregiving that I don't think people have taken under advisement. So, yes, with your parents or your older relatives, people who raised you, you can look at them and you could say, okay, something's going on. Let's get into it. Let's figure out what we need to do here. Can you still live by yourself? If you can't live by yourself, who are you going to live with? Do you need to go to a facility? All of those things. So yesterday I went to visit my brother, and he's been in rehab for months. And so he's not walking. And it's like he got this giant bill from the facility. So one of his private duty nurses called me and was like, hey, you need to get up here because they're not telling me what's going on. It really wasn't all that difficult. I got up there and I looked at the paperwork. I was like, it's just a giant bill. I said, this is the cost. He looks at me and he goes, well, what's my return on investment here if I pay this $8,000 to stay here for another month? I said, there is no return on your investment. This is the rent. This is what it costs to live here. And I said, it's pretty cheap too, because normally every place I've looked at, if you can't walk, they charge you about $10,000. The full scale nursing usually starts at 10 grand to 15 grand a month. I said, so they're starting you on the spin down. And he goes, well, they're not going to do any more physical therapy. I said, no, because they're moving you from rehabilitation into residency, which means they're going to charge you this much money a month till you don't have any more money left. And then you're going to go on Medicaid. And so it's really challenging because he's not old. He's in his mid 60s. So it's like he's not old. He worked really hard. He has money, but you won't have money very long if you have to do the spin down. I mean, if they're charging you $8,000 and so it went up $2,000, so I'm thinking, oh, they'll get to 10 on the next bill. It's just the way it is. And it's such a complicated system, but it's not really. The goal here is take care of your health, stay healthy, move your body, go for walks, eat real food. If your grandmother, especially if you're over 50, if your grandmother didn't eat it, don't eat it. If your grandmother didn't know what a Funyun would be, don't eat it. Like, it's better to eat real food than to eat this manufactured food, and I'll stand on that. I agree you shouldn't eat sugar, you should cut it down, you should watch your salt, all of that. But if you're going to eat processed food, it'd be better to eat a real homemade apple pie made with lard than to eat processed food, to me. And that might not be right because I'm not a doctor, but that's the way I feel about it. These chemicals are horrible for us, and they've pretended like they're fine, but they're not. They're not good for you. And so when you've had a steady diet of shit for 40 years and people are getting sick and they're young, you get to be 60 something years old and you can't walk and you don't feel good. You got all this inflammation, So anyway, all I'm saying is there are going to be people you don't expect to have to advocate for that you will have to advocate for if you want to. Now, I recognize everybody's not like me. Everybody doesn't have a sense of family that I have or the willingness to help that I have. But, there are going to be people in your life that you care about, and you're going to have to be like, shit, how do we make this work? So I called his doctor and asked if he could go into hospice at home, because if they think he's sick enough to live in a facility, then he probably qualifies for hospice at home. because they don't want to release them. And that with his private duty team should be a fair amount of care, especially if we could get somebody to come in at night. But it's just, and it's expensive. That's going to be expensive too. But it's better than getting on that fucking Medicaid, man, because once they start putting you on Medicaid and start that whole process, Medicaid can come back even after your death and go back 5 years and get money out of you. So it's very, very scary to me to think that most people are going to have to use Medicaid, but don't do it until you're at the very end of your life and people have sold all your assets, because they're coming for it. Any bit of money you make, they're going to come for it. It's bananas. So I don't know. You have to get clever and find an attorney. And I definitely, if you have bad health, you should definitely have a power of attorney in place, because that means you could get incapacitated at any time. And if that person can't speak for you, if there's not anybody to advocate for you, a lot of these places, and I'm not saying the place he's in, it seemed fine, but some of these places aren't. They're kind of nefarious, and they will make you sick enough to stay there. And I remember last year with my mom, they were really trying to turn her into a zombie and help her hit the exits. And it's like, I just went in there and got her out. And he was going to keep her and keep experimenting on her. He was giving her all these kind of drugs that you give people who have bipolar disorder. And I know that because I have a brother who has bipolar disorder. It's actually the brother I'm talking about right now. And, he takes his medicine. When he takes his medicine, he seems like a functional human being, But I think there's just so many health challenges. If you don't have a good diet and you don't exercise, you're at very high risk for dementia, that front temporal lobe dementia, which is basically cardiovascular. Like, it's just vascular dementia, not cardio. It's vascular dementia because you're not pumping enough blood to your brain because you don't move. So anyway, the moral of the story is I'm not trying to tell all his medical business. But that's what I'm talking about. These things are sticky and nuanced, and you may find yourself having to advocate for someone who's not your parent. He could easily be a spouse, and you'd be like, shit, what do I do? So, all of this knowledge is important, and they're not talking about it. And I get it. There's a whole bunch of shit out here that's going on, that's worth talking about. I've been raising a lot of questions about Israel. That's crazy. We're sending all that money to them. And talk about return on investment. Trump seems like a nut. I trust none of these politicians to do anything that makes life better for people. They're really out here for themselves. It's obvious. We are living in a shit show, and I get it. But something that may not feel like it's out there, but it's the call is in your house, is caregiving, because you're going to probably have more than one relative who at some point suddenly stops being able to live on their own. And that's usually how it happens. It's suddenly they fall and go into a facility and they don't ever recover. And then, they can't go back and live alone. And so what do? Then you look into facilities, but they're so expensive. You can have $250,000 in savings, but as soon as somebody has to go into a hospital or a rehab or a long-term care facility, that money is gone fast. And it's going to put everybody's retirement at risk. And it's going to put everybody who thinks they're getting an inheritance from their parents at risk. The great wealth transfer is not going to come to you it's going to come to medical facilities, which are probably heavily invested in by, uh, you know, these hedge funds or something. Because there's the way it's set up, there's no way it can benefit the patient. It has to benefit the facility. You dig? So the way America's been going, so it wouldn't be a big shock to me to find out that most of these are owned by some corporation that's owned by a hedge fund, and they've been making money hand over fist because they knew all these people would soon get old and be very, very sick. Because right now we're not just getting older, we're getting older and sicker. So you could live an additional 10 years, but you sick as a dog the whole time. Someone's getting paid for that, and they don't have a lot of experimental treatments. It's all pills, baby. They got a pill for everything for you. And they throw a pill at each of your ailments, and you could be on upwards of 10 to 20 pills and have to live in a facility because your kidneys shut down. So the great American wealth that anybody could have right now is good health. It's better than money. It's better than cash. Good health is a new form of currency. Because if you're not healthy, and these insurance companies have so little to offer, I mean, it's wild. It's a wild, wild west scenario, but in 2025. And so you've got all these institutions crumbling, all of the facade of people who are in control and looking out for you and politicking allegedly on your behalf. All of that's crumbling. And eventually we're going to get to some kind of utopia. It's going to feel like utopia compared to this, because you're going to have people who are actually honest, who everything isn't transactional. When you sit down and share your ailments, they'll be able to give you a good list of things that you can actually do, and it won't feel transactional. I mean, to me, that's the perfect world. And I think we're getting to it. All this shit is crumbling down, and if you look at the way the planets are aligned, this is the season for that. That's the era we're in. The era where people are like, we've been sending how much to Israel? What? It's crazy. People are starting to wake up. Been deeply, deeply brainwashed. And I saw something yesterday where basically Whitney Webb, who's this amazing independent journalist who I think she lives in Costa Rica or something. She's always like under the radar because I'm pretty sure the stuff she's talking about, people want to kill her for real. She knows a lot. And she basically was like, the president is performative. The job of the president has been for sale and bought and sold since the first elections. Like, none of them have ever been legitimate, because whoever the special interest group, which is, according to her, is mainly bankers, they've always just bought off the candidates, and they bought their loyalty, and the people who really run the country are the bankers and lawyers. And she just said it in a very succinct, interesting way. And I was like, whoa, that's grim. But it makes sense, because so much of what is happening in the presidency is in the interest of bankers. And so whoever has the money has the power. And they just bribe people nonstop. They don't call it bribing, but that's what it is. They call it special interests or lobbying. But if you don't take that money out, you can always count on everybody just their votes being bought and sold. It's all performative. Our government is completely performative. It's basically slavery set up by the banks. Look at all the numbers of things that you don't understand fully, but you have to participate in, like the credit system and your credit score, or when's the right time to pay your credit cards, and and knowing people have to use something to stay afloat. All of these things we have to participate in, but nobody explains them to us. They don't teach you money in school at all. At all. So, it's all just feels like a scam. And when I mean slavery, yes, we get paid a wage, but you're always sort of white knuckling it to hope that your wage keeps up with your cost of living. And so far, they haven't managed to do that very well. It's an interesting time. I'm wondering how many more people are going to wake up and be like, fuck this. This is ridiculous. And demand better. Because these greedy ass people ain't going to treat you better until you demand better. Say what you want, but people disconnecting and canceling Hulu and Disney Plus, that was powerful. It was super powerful. People had just had it. Like, look, I don't even think Jimmy Kimmel is that funny. I'm not even going to lie. He don't make me laugh. But it's wrong to censor somebody. And the president shouldn't be able to be like, take that TV show off the air. This is not Germany, Nazi Germany. This is not Cuba. We're not I was going to say a socialist, but we're not a communist country. Like, that's not right. Censorship is wrong. You've been pretending we had freedom of speech all this time. Now you've just really gone too far. They do censor you pretty heavily on social media, but we are a censored country, but that was just a bridge too far. That's ridiculous. I'm drinking this mushroom coffee. I haven't had fully caffeinated coffee in about 5 days. And I notice it too. But, as you get older, your blood pressure goes up. And I noticed the way I make my coffee, my blood pressure goes up. So it's like maybe I need to not drink it as much. Oh, if you get Twitter or X or whatever, go and watch Venus and Serena's podcast. It's adorable. They're hilarious. They're really funny. I can see why they're best friends because Venus is so laid back and so obedient and methodical, and Serena is just sort of like she's the little sister. She's just very dramatic and just has all these issues and things. But I'm telling you, their podcast is really cute. I watched the second episode. It was really good. So if you get a chance, it's only on X so far. But it's really good. It's just funny. I see why they're so close. And yeah. Serena's just a little menace. She's definitely the little sister, just a little drama queen. And then the older sister is like, what? They're only like a year apart. And they're totally different in personality and temperament. But it's funny. Anyway, that was good. And Abbott Elementary is back. So I got to watch the new show on Hulu before my subscription cancels. I'm not sure if I'm going to renew it. I might. I love Hulu. It's got all the shows on it, but I really took a stand for Jimmy Kimmel and censorship. That's ridiculous. That's why I think we should take this Christmas break off. No, I said that wrong. I think we should take this Christmas off and don't really purchase between October and December. Just don't buy anything. And really cripple these hedge funds because they've been taking us for granted. And I know people are going, but my kids need Christmas. No, they don't. It's based on the way most of us grew up. It's Christmas every day for these kids. They can get their shit in January. Let's be honest. How many of y'all are thinking it's about Jesus' birthday anyway? Very few. Very few. And it's not what you do one time that makes an impact. It's what you do consistently over time that makes the biggest impact. So I'm all for cancel Christmas. Let's go. Do not spend and see what they come up with then. Of course, get gas and food and shit you need to live, but do not buy high ticket items or any items for Christmas and see how that go. I could see that being very effective. So to wrap it up, there's probably someone in your life that you're looking at right now, and you're going to be like, man, in a year, 5 years, 10 years, I'm going to have to take care of this motherfucker. that cousin that's breathing heavy at the table. You already know. If you're a family person or a kind person, and you know, like, you could just look and see. As soon as I said that one person in your family or friend group, and you look at them and be like, yeah, I'm gonna have to take care of this motherfucker right here. You ain't doing shit right, you know. And all jokes aside, like, you got to make a plan, and you got to know that some people will need your advocacy, and it ain't going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. And they're going to have to let you into their finances, because most of this is financial. The reality is, if you had time and you could just take care of somebody, you would just do it. But it's never that easy, because if they have to go in a facility, then it's a countdown to how long they can keep their cash. So it's an interesting thing. My mom had at least 2 applications started for Medicaid, and we never finished it because I just didn't want the government in her money. And I don't think you should want that either. That's just my 2 cents on that. Take care of yourselves. Have an amazing day. Be well.